Yeah, ready? Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for this special Time and Tide Museum showcase of Portuguese culture in Great Yarmouth as part of our Migration, Heritage and Belonging project. The Migration, Heritage and Belonging project involves engaging with local people from migrant communities to record and share their experiences of moving to Great Yarmouth from around the world. This project's been made possible by a grant from the Esme Fairbairn Collections Fund delivered by the Museums Association. In recent decades, migrants from European countries have moved to Great Yarmouth under the freedom of movement allowed by membership of the European Union. Today, the second most spoken language after English in Great Yarmouth is Portuguese. This special online broadcast event shines a light on the vibrant culture of Portuguese literature and live art flourishing in Great Yarmouth by showcasing the work of local writers Gia Mawusi, Pedro Cassimo, and the Afroluso Dance Group. Tonight, we're thrilled to have all these artists here to perform for you and just want to tell you a little bit about each of them. Gia Mawusi is a writer currently living in Great Yarmouth. She was born in Mozambique and grew up in Lisbon in Portugal. Gia writes poetry and fiction, mainly in Portuguese and English, and uses idioms from her native dialects Sena and Nadao. She is currently working on her first novel. Pedro Cassimo is a writer also born in Mozambique. He moved to Portugal in 2000 to attend the Collegio Militar School. He moved to England in 2008, where he studied health and social care. In 2010, he moved from Norwich to Great Yarmouth, where he studied music and became active within the community, performing in events and organising projects. Afroluso is a young African dance group located in Great Yarmouth, founded in 2011 by Ana Maria to celebrate African Portuguese culture. Their main style of dance originates from Africa with influences ranging from Afro house, dancehall, and traditional dancing to contemporary hip hop and dancehall styles. Afroluso have won increasing recognition in recent years with their classes at Great Yarmouth Library and colourful public performances at carnivals and special events. And we're going to start this evening with a reading from Gia Mawusi.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm bringing a poem in 3 takes, and then I will read a short story that I wrote under the title of My Land, and that was featured in Fieldwork. So I will start with the poem in 3 takes. Take 1. When I came to this new world, I didn't know what I signed up for. The towns and roads I walked yesterday are no more. And I grieve for those stories, those tales and traditions that made all sense to me. My soul is not an open door. It's a castle with big walls that keeps everything inside and hides memories, a place where I used to belong, before the stars that aligned in your sky dimmed mine. The life that I now live, the clothes I wear and sleep in, invisible spider webs trap me in this reality. An anonymous face in the crowd whispers about my alienness and ridicules my untamed hair, my thick lips, and the colorful clothes my mother adorned my body with. Take 2. The ones move relentlessly forward. A nova aurora está quase aqui, and the dreams of tomorrow clash with the nightmares of yesterday. A incerteza lies in between. We are all living on a borrowed time, and the bringers of life and death mock us at each turn. O caminho está armadilhado com o que foi nem esquecido, nem perdoado. Meanwhile, o musgo cresce nas ruínas das cidades. The waves crash on the shores, and the sibilant wind will whiz, whip, caress, comfort, regardless of the inner frontiers within which country we were born. The media shouts some agenda in the background. Vai para a tua terra, they say. The new old dogma for all to hear, adopt, and tear the one that doesn't belong here. But they forget that we are all outsiders, going through life scenes in a reception room, waiting for someone to let us in. And pointed fingers stare at me. I smile and move on to the other side of the street. Take 3. They say I'm not from here, but I'm not really from anywhere. My story started with the fathers of my father, brothers of my mother, in a homeland far, far away, unseen by my eyes, a place that is not here or there. Here, the aunties say, we work from dawn to sunset, making bread and de matabicho, running around like ants, sem saber às vezes porquê. Here, we have a life after another life to be lived after there. We say, bom dia, and smile no café. Here, we make friends and have dances and talks and walks by the beach after school and grueling work. Here, we have laughter and tears and pink gin and pubs and the shouted off from random strangers brawling outside late on Friday nights. They say he is not there, but I don't know there anymore. Just that this here is where I now am and belong. I will now read my story titled My Land. My grandmother was a tall, proud African woman. She could barely speak proper English, like Miss Charlotte from the Mission, but she always stood up and made her way among her betters without a single notion or care about her station in society. She would walk on by, and they would stare up and down at her with resentful eyes. But she did not care about them or their opinion. She was content with herself. That uneasy feeling of unworthiness that afterwards so many in my family felt, myself included, never once touched her soul. She knew who she was and where she was headed to. That is what I remember most about her. That, and her straight back, her clean and unafraid stare, that unique and loud laughter, and especially a lack of knowledge or sense about appropriateness that later was fiercely bestowed on us. I always admired her, respected her. I envied her freedom. Grandma always walked the fields with my hand tightly clasped, and she would sing, she would tell me stories about our ancestors, men that turned into lions, and how man was connected to the land and the spiritual world, how we were all one and the same, but different still. We would gather the herbs and the plants that were good for our black natural medicine, and she would teach me about which ones could save our life and which ones could kill us on the spot. Grandma would point out the animals roaming by and the places where they would hide during the scorching midday sun. She would teach me how to avoid the snakes and scorpions' holes, and we would gather shiny rocks that looked like diamonds to take home. I remember listening to her voice and how she would smile back at me with a twinkle in her eye. It was always so warm during summertime, and my back will be stuck to the cotton shirt Mama dressed me in. The sweat drops will travel from my forehead to my chin while we made our way back to the shade of the embondeiro tree in Grandma's backyard. After that, we would eat sitting outside on the floor underneath that ancient tree while the heat waves buzzed around us. And we would talk. Later in the afternoon, Grandma would make her own tobacco with dried leaves, honeyed by the sun and crushed to dust in her wooden pestle. When night descended, the sky was so black and darkness was so heavy, you could feel it weighing on you like a blanket. The stars were shiny, but so distant that they looked unreal, more like a dream. Sometimes I thought about them as guardians watching us, looking down at us from afar. We always slept on the floor, hard and dusty, and that smell of tobacco, herbs, bananas, mangoes, dirt, and musk were all Grandma. They were all my childhood, my comfort, my home, an hearth, a life, a being and feeling I thought I could never find later, anywhere, anymore, ever. Not something put on the shelf to rot, to forget, and remain forgotten. This country was quite different from my homeland. During those first months, I was grieving badly. I missed the sun, the heat, the never-ending view that spread before me, the yellow and tall grass where I could play hide and seek. But most of all, I missed Grandma and our walks. My grandma's voice and her teachings began to fade, and I felt lost in the crowds, in the town, in the newness and difference of this new world, new people, new life. I missed the fields. I missed that feeling of embracing the air itself, immersing in the trees and animal around us. The feeling of belonging and that feeling of connection. I had somehow lost that. It felt like all the smells, all the flora and fauna were different, smaller, dimmer, not so fantastic and beautiful, not mine. And I grieved more than I could understand at the time. But winter came and was gone, and spring was here. And suddenly, while I was walking in the grove, after months and months of numbness, feeling nothing, I found it. It started with a whisper, pulling me deeper. And when the sounds of the town faded away, the further I went in, I began to feel it again. A glimmer, an inkling of that special space and place from before, a previous life and existence. The grass and the weeds were growing together and making my legs itch everywhere where they touched my skin. But that whisper, that voice, was calling to something forgotten within me. A river was hidden by the trees and leaves, and its water gurgling, running down in circles at some places, faster and dangerously in others. And the wind was rustling the leaves over my head and the grass. That itchiness was there, telling me something, making me pay attention, begging my soul to remember. This place was, for some reason I could not fathom, beckoning me forth. I stepped further and sat on the trunk of the fallen tree. The skin was hard, with rough edges that imprinted in my fingers, almost hurting them, forcing me to feel its strength, hear its pain. I had no choice, so I just sat there and listened. And in the silence, not something put on the shelf to rot, to forget, and remain forgotten. I heard and felt my grandma's voice in my head, in my heart. Not something put on the shelf to rot, to forget, and remain forgotten. I almost felt her hand on mine, her smile, saw that twinkle in her eye, reminding me that nothing in life is ever lost. We just think it is. Life moves on, and so must we. Grandma used to say that. I forgot about that, but I remember now. Not something put on the shelf to rot, to forget, and remain forgotten. Sitting there on that fallen tree, I became quieter, stiller, and life happened behind me, above me, below me, around me, inside me. And from that day on, I walked in that grove. And later, as I discovered and embraced this new land, on other landscapes as well. Grandma walked with me during the hardest times in my life. I always felt her presence guiding me, and a warmth would touch me from my core. And I noticed things, beautiful and simple little things I didn't before. I noticed the ducks, the ponds, the small deer that would come closer if I remained still, the sounds, the beetles and army of ants marching without glancing back at me, the blanket of connection in peace that was now wrapped around me. I just stayed more and more in tune with this way of observing life and not doing anything at all. Every afternoon, I walked this field so different from before. I kept on doing just that for no other reason that I wanted to. It soothed my soul, breathing in and out, just breathing, existing. And I kept on grieving. I kept on healing. I kept on living. Thank you. That's all for me.
Really beautiful and really moving. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now, next up, we're going to hear from Pedro Cassimo, who's going to also do a reading for us.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm going to be reading a text I wrote for the field of work. It's called Her Majesty. It's quite clear that H2O is two hydrogen molecules and one of oxygen combined in one structure. Simple as that. This only reminds me that in this reality, no one can or should stand alone, that we need one another to be. Now, I'm not sure what to tell you if not invite you to my reality, where the real meets the lie, the exaggeration, the fantasy, the pleasure, the tense, the doubt, the history, the everything. My name is an identification to whoever coexists in direct and indirect action can address me. Now, in my mind and heart, I say John, João, Pedro, Cassimo. I'm all these names in one person. So, best to say character, for each name is an attribution to a certain reality or fantasy that I experienced, and people recall it acknowledging the name they know me by during the season we coexisted. As far as I can remember, back in Mozambique, my mom used to wake me up in the morning, soaked up by the waters that engulfed me through a deep recharging sleep, night to next day, from a sweet, sometimes bitter sleep that took away the control or feel of my bladder. Every morning I beheld the most beautiful being wake me up, adverting me that I'd be late for school, that I needed to get ready. Same time, in same person, I understood the fatigue of watching the bed and its sheets soaked like a river and the effort to wash it by hand every day. The call was like, John, John, acorda, acorda, filho. I was probably around 6 or 7 years old. Sometimes my dad took me and my brother and sister in his yellow golden Mercedes 320 CL to school. Sometimes, or most of the times, we took the bus to school. I can never forget the way to school, as it was like entering on a new world. The car window was my cinema screen, and every day was like watching a new release that you desired to watch for months. There it was, a scene to never forget or to blink. Sunny or cloud, it was there standing with her might and power. At her service was the fishermen in boats or by the waters getting their fishing tools, and boats ready or already fishing. Some people were just walking or running by. Some people were just there, observing, being. For me, it was like a therapy before school start. Even if the day would go good or bad, those moments were like a therapy. A meditation, experiencing all that. The best really was the breeze and the scent that flown everywhere. It was more powerful than sleep to me. It was memory update by each second as well. I've experienced a lot more things on my time in Mozambique. Somehow, I've managed to save all these memories in Her Majesty, the Indic Ocean. In her, I found joy and comfort. Through my time in Mozambique, I saved everything in my heart and mind. If I needed to remember all of it, just needed to be by her and recall all the time that I was called John. Bantu. So far, that was it for me in Mozambique. The land, rain, and thunder prevailed in me. The more I seek and try to find, my thoughts and memory in John are confined. I was born by the sea. From the sea I am built. Every trip, 30 minutes, the humid, salty breeze, through my nostrils to my body and soul, I sneeze the memory of each day. For that I'm thankful to be. Oh, you Indic, where you sending me? What is that I seek? To your sister, Her Majesty the Atlantic, you send me so I can be. Some people want it all, but I don't want a thing at all if I ain't got you. Before I heard Cassimo from a birdly voice, the last thing I recall was my mother's voice crying on land while I was taking off on the airplane to a new journey, and then it was Portugal, Lisbon, the land of the sea heroes, Heróis do Mar. Here they call me Cassimo, Menino da Luz, light boy. The Brotherhood has more than 200 years of existence. The army boarding school was my house, my home, my ferment. I had no family there apart from my tutor, which was my best friend with my dad. Mozambique world was left behind in memories, in my soul, in land, in my nostrils. It wasn't easy 7 years. During all process, I spoke with my parents and family a few times by phone. It was good, but never enough. Obviously, I went back for holidays twice, as much as it could be afforded to me to return. I left Mozambique when I was 10. I was never forced to travel to Lisbon, but yes, it was agreed between me and my parents. Sometimes was the best times for I was out for holidays and could do anything that possibly could. So whenever I could, I'd reach for the sea or river, and I'd take a moment to enter the world where only Her Majesty could allow me to enter. My memories of a life once lived. Going through it was like accessing your computer files instantly by a click. In this case was the flow of a humid air from the sea and the whole steam from the sun burning up high, activating my senses and experience of a blink or a glimpse of a life once lived and loved, to a regret and thankful moment of existence. With all that going through me, there she was, Her Majesty, standing astonishingly in front of me, declaring her purity, divine power, and secrets of life, the sea. Through Portugal I went. I did experience things that one can only imagine. I mean, coming from a boy who lived once in Africa, that going to Europe would be something like a miracle due to our status in society. What I mean is that not everybody has the means to just pack your bags and go to Europe. My dad had some money, but also a big family, and I was lucky. Here, Portugal, I've experienced sadness, happiness, loneliness, but the most a desire to go through it. The people here called me Cassimo. Her Majesty has one more episode about me. Heróis do Mar, all you corner of Europa, O you brave land that once met Africa, O you Enriquez, the root of the sea heroes, behold what you did before Her Majesty. Fearless you witnessed the vastness and power of Her Majesty, and to you she gave you a great honor, an honor that opened the ways, where once one believed and many followed. Behold the Atlantic and its secrets, where the Bantu were once inmates, and you allowed the world to meet. And so Britannia and the heroes met. Em campos de glória fulge, dourados pomos brilhantes, meu príncipe menino da luz. Falling to a disillusion of not accomplishing the opportunity that was given to me, the door to make my family proud, the sweat and blood that took for me to have this chance, to ending up distributing pamphlets on the big Lisbon was almost like not breathing. My only door was the one of the famous island, Britannia, the land of Her Majesty, the land of Nelson, the House of Windsor. I had a vague idea of what to expect to see, but at the same time, I was abandoning a life, dreams of a young boy, glory of the comrades, the one sacrifice that brought tears and hope to a new future, to even once return to a homeland and bring a change and a chance for my Mozambican fellow. Norfolk I went, to its epicenter, Norwich, where new things came upon me like a baby first glimpse of the world. Thirsty and starving to know it all, I embraced it. Going through barriers and challenges, I've enriched my person to the standards to continue and make a living. My dreams of going back to my motherland, they were still imprinted in me. From washing dishes to bar supervisor to a health student, within 2 years was done. Although I was in the flower of my youth, plus I was experiencing the world for the first time after army boarding school, and so I did fall into a sweet pit where blame stared at me, and I've enjoyed it so that I did encounter the sea again. It was almost all that a young man like me or anyone could have done, but not in that way I did. I decided to live and enjoy what I did in the past and forget all that ate me and staring, whenever falling into silence. Great Yarmouth was the next place. I had some joy and new dreams. Whenever I felt sad or reminiscent or needed meditation, I'd meet Her Majesty, the sea, and never walk with her. She saw me at all my states, spiritually and psychologically. I had found comfort in staring at the vast sea and the seagulls flying by. Sometimes a seal would bring her head to give a good look. I've met God there many times. Sometimes I've wondered why me? Why I've ended up the way I did and my personal problems. She's like a mother that endures pain, joys of her offspring. She suffers with offsprings and celebrates with too. Her silence is deeper than silence itself, for silence numbs you and brings nothing, comfort, peace, or whatsoever. But the silence of the waters meeting the land, it's rather refreshing and nurturing in a natured way that only the soul can identify. According to the individual, such experience impacts a unique way that is memorable for the rest of the individual's life. The beautiful Britannia statue has such a symbolic value to this particular sea and land that it's incredible. It shows epicism, glory, bravery, passion, and love. Lovers do somehow have strange encounters of disgrace or a lace that connects them. The sea is deep indeed, deep enough for Titanic to lose itself on her deepness. But the love of two always prevailed, saved by Her Majesty through the sinking and time. It's amazing how the sea shares many stories and tales of souls that are bound, tears of desires and despairs, wishes and prayers. A human alone wouldn't stand this explosive testimony of many lives and eras. Great is her love to us. The Yarmouth has experienced a lot of things. It has witnessed blood and love through times and even on my time. Here I'm known as a Pedro, a boy from sea eras, a boy descended from the sun, from the Bantu, a boy known as Pedro. This sea is a universe wonder. Here at Norfolk Ground, she's the Atlantic. Now, why would I write to you if she can tell you everything else? Take a walk. Britannia, oh Great Yarmouth, oh Her Majesty, I've seen so much that no man can ever match. You know Nelson and his brave heart. You've held him tight on your bosom and kept him and his nation prosperous as a blossom. To the lovers and lonely, you are here. During your forever service, by God's grace, no longer I fear. Why would I write more if you can take a walk with Her Majesty? Still more majestic shall thou rise. Do you hear me? Across the waters, across the deep blue, lucky, I'm in love with my best friends. This is it for tonight. Thank you very much.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Pedro. It's so great. Lovely to hear you read that. Really lovely.
Thank you.
And so for our final artist tonight, Anna Maria is going to introduce the work of her group, the Afroluso Dance Group, and tell us a bit about them and their work.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I hope you're ready to see a little performance of the Afroluso Dance Group that shows up a little bit of the work we do every week to bring you this little lovely performance with these lovely girls that I'm really proud to work with. And we're really proud to be here tonight to show you our work, and I hope you enjoy it.
Trouble. 2, 1, watch me. Level up, 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 level up. All this on me so yummy, all this sauce so yummy. No, you want this yummy, yummy all in your tummy. Level up, 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 level up. All this on me so yummy, all this sauce so yummy. No, you want this yummy, yummy all in your tummy. Them more mistakes are gone. I won't do them no more.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much, Afroluso dancers. That was brilliant. Really enjoyed watching that so much. Thank you very much to all the artists for lovely readings and for that amazing dancing as well. Really appreciate you sharing your work with us this evening. And thank you very much to Henry Jackson Newcomb for supporting the technical delivery of this event for Norfolk Museum Service. Thank you also to everybody who's been watching from home. We've had some lovely messages coming through from the chat. We've had Patricia from Malta saying greetings from Malta, lovely readings. We've had Rosie saying lovely. Virginia with lots of clapping hands, people saying amazing, really enjoyed that, thank you. So lots of lovely feedback there. So it's fantastic to reach new people, different audiences with this really special and exciting work. So thank you everybody that tuned in to watch, and everyone at Norfolk Museum Service hopes that you really enjoyed this special taste of Portuguese culture in Great Yarmouth. Thank you very much, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.